may top that list for non-divisional opponents. But they're in some trouble. They're not doing well. And I smile slightly as saying this. They're losing a lot of key guys. And maybe with Brandon Ayuk unhappy, the bleeding isn't over for San Francisco. So maybe my entertainment, my hate watch can continue. But I'm curious on your thoughts. Where do you think that San Francisco is going to go at pick 11?
So I think they're going to go offensive tackle one way or the other. Mel Kiper has Armand Membu going at 11. I've got him going at 9 to New Orleans. So Membu is no longer available in mine. I think whether it's offense or defense, the biggest need in San Fran is absolutely going to be their line. If I am John Lynch and Membu is off the board, I'm taking Will Campbell. I think Will Campbell from LSU is a great pick if New England doesn't take him. I can see New England not taking him. I don't know if New England is going to make that obvious pick. So if Will Campbell's available, Pro Football Focus puts him at number 6 on their big board. But because most experts are predicting him to go after Membu, I am also going to do that. And I think he's going to go to San Francisco. I think he's going to be a very big mirror image to what Trent Williams is.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
and Trent Williams, obviously the anchor to that left side of the line there. And I think it would be smart, considering they're about to pay a mid-quarterback $60 million. Might as well protect him, right? Putting so much investment into him. So Membu makes sense. He's definitely the best pure pass-protecting tackle in the draft. Will Campbell is phenomenal. But I do think Membu is better at the pass sets, despite being a little bit undersized. So I agree. I actually do mention tackle here in my mock draft, and I actually mentioned Armand Membu. But I don't think that they're going to go offense here. I think that the line is something they will still focus on, but I don't think that it will be offensive line. The San Francisco 49ers have one interior defensive lineman that had above a 50 Pro Football Focus grade on their roster currently. One. And it's Evan Anderson, and he was a 60. So they're
that's not who I would have expected it to be.
Interior O-line. Well, who'd you expect?
I missed the word interior, so that's
interior. Yeah. Of course, they have a top 5 edge rusher in Nick Bosa, but outside of him, interior edge rusher, interior defensive linemen, they're one of the worst units in football after they've lost some of the guys that played on that unit this past season. So I think they have to address that one way or the other. Either they're addressing that or edge, because the edge opposite of Nick Bosa is either two guys who played so few snaps they don't have a grade, or Taron Jackson or Yetur Gross-Matos, who are both sub 52 PFF grade players. Just very poor guys, honestly. You need somebody else on that edge. You can't count on Nick Bosa to get all your sacks. So I see Shamar Stewart here. Firstly, because Shamar Stewart is an edge rusher who I think fits the scheme really well. Is a really powerful, pocket-crushing edge rusher that will help get Nick Bosa more sacks. That's who the Niners need. They don't need someone with a ton of production, because I talked about Shamar Stewart being a guy who only had a sack and a half in college. So he's not going to get sacks. He's going to produce sacks by pushing the quarterback into Nick Bosa, who's going to clean up the play. And the second reason I have Shamar Stewart going here is because the San Francisco 49ers suck at drafting in the first round, and I don't think that Shamar Stewart is going to be that good. And so I think he's a player that's perfectly mocked to San Fran, as they have had some really, really bad luck drafting in the first round. Not necessarily bad luck, just bad drafting decisions overall in that unit. That's something that this organization has done very poorly over the last couple of years. I mean, it's really been Nick Bosa, and that's it to earn a second contract. Maybe there's one other guy.
Yeah, I like Shamar Stewart with the scheme. I don't like him at pick 11. I don't think he is a top 15 pick. I think he can definitely be a first-round pick. and it's a steal if he falls to the second round. But I don't like him at pick 11. I think that would be a massive reach by the 49ers.
Gotcha. But here's my one argument. Think of their last couple of first-round picks. 2021 first-round pick, Trey Lance, not with the team anymore. 2020 first-round pick, Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle. He's not on the team anymore, I don't think. I imagine, yeah, he's with the Commanders now, so not even on the team anymore. And then the other one's Brandon Ayuk, who may be traded. Mike McGlinchey, their pick in 2018, is off with Denver now. Reuben Foster is out of the league. Solomon Thomas is not with the team anymore. Nick Bosa is obviously a stud, but they cannot figure out the first round of the draft. And so that's why I'm mocking them, Stewart, because I think that this organization is incompetent when it comes to evaluating first-round talent.
So are you saying that they're incompetent at evaluating first-round talent, which is why they'll reach for Stewart?
Yes.
Okay.
And I generally agree with your analysis that Stewart should not go in the top 15, but he will because San Francisco picks in the top 15. That's my argument.
Gotcha. Okay. I do understand that argument then.
You just have more confidence in the Niners organization than I do. I have zero confidence in them. I think that they've made really horrible decisions, and one Mr. Irrelevant pick is ironically keeping them relevant and keeping them from being fired. Because if they miss on Brock Purdy, Trey Lance doesn't pan out, and they are out of a job. So they have been horrible at drafting in the first round. They can prove me wrong, but I don't think they will, and I think in turn we'll draft Shamar Stewart.
I think that's why they have to make a safe pick. Because you're right. They have not been well in the first round, and I think they need to do a safe pick. We'll find out what happens on April 24th, but I do want to shift to the next team on our list, and that is one of the, before this year, the only other active team, or the only other team with an active quarterback to win a Super Bowl, and that is the Rams. Other than I butchered that. It's the LA Rams that we're going to talk about next. Zach, save my stumbling there. All right, what's going down in LA?
So the Rams have two options here at pick 26. They did really well last year. They have two options. They have to take an absolute slam dunk playmaker to give Matthew Stafford just an abundance of options for what may be his final season as a Ram, and make a Super Bowl push in his final year, or they can address a glaring weakness on the defensive side. Those are their two options, in my opinion. And here's why I think they're going to go with the first one. This is my trends question I mentioned earlier. Sean McVay, in his time as the Rams head coach and as well as the GM in LA, I don't know his name, has selected 3 times the amount of offensive players in the first round than defensive players. He's only selected 2 defensive players in the first round in his time in LA. And I don't think that he's going to buck that trend. I think that he's going to go with Colston Loveland, the tight end, here to give Matt Stafford a weapon, because Higbee has not been a very explosive playmaker. He's a great possession tight end, but Loveland is a guy that can really make a difference and stretch the field alongside Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. And I think that's the option they will go with, simply because the first round is where the Rams have invested the majority of their offensive talent. I think that they're great at finding late-round defensive guys. I think they will continue to do that. They bucked the trend last year by selecting Jared Verse. He's a defensive rookie of the year, so it made sense. Plus, there was a crazy run on offensive players ahead of the Rams pick. I think Verse was the first defensive player chosen in that draft, and he ended up being the defensive rookie of the year. So that's why they bucked the trend. They will not buck the trend this year. They will instead select a tight end in Colston Loveland or potentially another offensive weapon. But if they do select defense, I did identify 2 corners that fit really well in their scheme. Hairston out of Kentucky, who we've talked about, and then Isaiah Thomas out of Florida State. Corners are most glaring weakness, so they can address that with those 2 picks.
I like that you're talking about tight end, because we really haven't talked about tight end. I think the tight ends in this draft are going to be very underrated. I think there's going to be a tight end or 2 that gets drafted late first round and does very well. I agree with you that I think the Rams are going to go offensive weapon. If this guy is here, I think it's a no-brainer that you have to pick him. And that name is, I'm going to butcher it. It's Emeka Egbuka. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, from Ohio State.
From Ohio State. I hope I pronounced that right. I think if he is there when the Rams are on the clock at pick 18, I think that's got to be the guy that you take. He, uh, they brought in Cooper Cup from LA, but losing DK Metcalf.
Hold on, we're talking
I
about
think
the
I'm looking
Rams
at the
here.
wrong notes. Jeez, oh man, this this is bad. I have butchered so much. I am looking at the wrong notes. I do believe that the Rams could bring him in. I know that they brought in Devontae Adams
There you go.
to LA. I'm looking at the wrong notes. I apologize to the Rams fans here. I know they brought in Devontae Adams, but I do think that that Ohio State wide receiver is going to be the best bet if he is available at that point in time.
Yeah, I can see that. Egbuka is a very talented player, and if there's anybody in the NFL that can find a way to get him the ball, it's Matt Stafford. But I think that tight end's a bigger need than wide receiver. Why pay Devontae Adams so much money just to go out and draft another one? So I think that tight end could be addressed here for the Rams. Give them, because they already have Kyron Williams. He's like the missing piece to that offense, the missing explosive piece to help Matt Stafford and the Rams push for one final Super Bowl. But moving on to Seattle, the Seahawks. I think that there's a lot of ways they could go here, and I want to let you start off first since you already partially read these notes. You can go
So
ahead and
yeah,
finish it.
there's a lot of there's a lot of different things that they can do. My pick for Seattle is going to be a corner from Ole Miss, Trey Amos. I like what he can do. I think there is a chance that they can go corner with Maxwell Hairston as well. I think going corner could very much be a reach, but with corner being one of the needs in Seattle, I see some mock drafts taking corner. I've seen a few mock drafts of him taking Trey Amos. I've seen a few mock drafts of them taking Maxwell Hairston. I like the Ole Miss cornerback better.
And I don't hate that. I do think that they could address corner, given that Job has no, that's the Rams. Given that
See, now you're mixing it up.
I know you've got me screwed up, but given that the Seattle defense needs some help, however, if it had not been for the beautiful Chicago Bears and everything they stand for, people would be panicking in Seattle more about the offensive line because Geno Smith took nearly 50 sacks last year. And that's not when you bring in a guy like Sam Darnold who needs a clean pocket to produce at any semblance of the level he produced this past season. You have to address the offensive line in the first round. You cannot wait on it. You can't kick the can down the road. You need to give Darnold time. And their interior is one of the worst in football. And so I think there are two players that could really help the Seattle Seahawks out in that spot. First being Tyler Booker from Alabama. He's an offensive guard. He is someone that I mocked to the Lions in our first episode. He's someone I really, really like, and I don't think it would be a reach at all to take him in the top 20. I think he's the best interior guard in the draft, and he would really seal up a huge need for Seattle and allow their quarterback, Sam Darnold, to thrive. However, if they don't go Tyler Booker, I think that Kelvin Banks Jr. also could be the selection because of his versatility. If he's still there, I don't think they pass on him because he can play both tackle and guard. And both tackle and guard is a need for Seattle. So they can plug him in wherever their weakest position is, whether that's tackle or right guard or whatever, and he can come in and produce. So Banks and Booker are two names that if I were a Seattle fan, I would be on the lookout for.
I think Booker is going to be the best bet in Seattle because they've got the 18th pick. It is the Cardinals who have the 16th pick. And this gets to my most confident pick of the night. I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to draft Kelvin Banks Jr. I don't think he's going to be there for Seattle. I'm excited for the Arizona Cardinals. I interact with Cardinals fans. I weirdly interact with Cardinals fans more than you would think. I love their stadium. I went to a game a few years ago. I joined a Facebook group of Cardinals fans and I've stayed in it. And so I'm weirdly up to date with what Cardinals fans are thinking. And a lot of them are wanting Kelvin Banks Jr., and a lot of them are predicting Kelvin Banks Jr. The Cardinals had a horrific offensive line last year. Pro Football Focus ranked them 26th in the NFL, despite having a first-round offensive line tackle already on their roster. They did not mesh well at all. They did not protect their quarterback, and I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is going to be it's not going to bring the Cardinals to a top 10 offensive line, but it's definitely going to be a big piece in improving their offensive line.
Yeah, and especially the fact that they just lost interior guy Will Hernandez to free agency. He's still a free
Yep.
agent. They haven't brought him back. I don't think they intend to bring him back. So I'm actually going to take my notes and completely throw them out because I agree with everything you just said. I think that I'm convinced Kelvin Banks is going to the Cardinals. I'm gonna buy the jersey. But